Hi, and welcome to Classical Stuff You Should Know, a podcast about classical antiquity and culture and books and old things and, just that kind of that stuff.
Yep.
Classical stuff.
Classical
it's
stuff.
perfectly named.
Yep.
My name is Graham Donaldson, and I am here with my colleagues, Mr. Arthur Jan Hannenberg.
That's me.
And Mr. Thomas Magby.
Hello.
And we are teachers and lovers of classical things, and we talk about it every week to you. Things like art, music. I don't know, I'm not going to keep going. You know, if you're here, you know what's going on.
I hope so. This could be someone's first episode,
this could be your first time.
Yeah.
And this is your first time, and this is a standard that you should grow accustomed to.
This kind of intro, is that what you're... Yeah,
So this is part 2 of an episode that Hannenberg's been working on Cinderella. No.
Machiavelli.
Cinderella.
She's a princess? Is that the...
Niccolo di
The
Bernardo.
Prince. Sorry, I got
You
confused.
were so close.
I got confused.
You were so close.
Machiavelli. This is like how to murder friends and influence people. No,
Yes.
what was the name of the episode?
Oh, was it? Wasn't it How to Murder Friends and Influence People?
Something
I
like
think
that.
so, yeah.
It was great.
Yep.
And we had a quiz bowl, and turns out that Magby and I are not too dastardly.
I'm more dastardly, though.
I don't know. Did you win?
Yes. Yes. Nice try at rewriting history, but yeah, I won.
You'll get another shot at it today.
Kind of
Greg.
retcon everything.
Do we go in with our points from last time? Or?
Oh, no, it's clean,
new
clean
game.
slate.
That seems
Clean
fair.
slate.
New game.
That seems
Look
fair.
at that. The mercies are new every morning.
Hannenberg's mercies?
Yes.
Yeah, that's really kind of...
So, Hannenberg,
Mostly
take it
because
away.
my memory is terrible.
Take it away, Hannenberg. Let's talk about how to have an iron grip on the weak.
Okay. Well, with that setup, how could this episode fail to be good?
Exactly.
So again, I am talking about a fella named Niccolo di Bernardo de Machiavelli. And if you are interested in who he is and what his life was like and what's going on, you should probably listen to the first episode. It should be
Yes.
1 or 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, come on.
So go back and check that episode out before you dive into this one. Or, if you just don't give a rip and you're one of those freewheeling podcast listeners, throw caution to the wind.
Don't tell them what to do,
Dive
Hannenberg.
in now. Yeah, do what you want. You're a free agent. Listen, this is a free product. You didn't even pay for it.
You can listen
So,
to both at the same time.
That's
one for each ear, right? You got 2 ears? Why not?
Go for it, yeah.
Okay, so he was born in 1469 in Florence, and he served in the government, and then lots of crazy coups happened, and he served in the government, and then served in the government again, and then got sort of deposed and tortured and sent to a farm, and then eventually served in the government again. And that whole time he was sort of trying to claw his way back to notoriety, and he was only moderately successful, and eventually he wrote this book called The Prince, which was dedicated to some, what's the name? The Medici, some Medici brothers. And the guy he actually wrote it for kicked it pretty early, and it didn't actually give him a chance to rise in power, and it was only published, I think, posthumously. So it never really paid off how he wanted it to pay off.
Right.
But it has sort of become this almost villainized book. And I tried to look up as much of the reception as I could. And people have been villainizing this book and him almost since the beginning, because what he is advocating for here is prudence, right? Just total practicality, practical ruling, or pragmatic. That's the word I'm looking for. It's kind of like if you've ever watched House of Cards, it's how that guy rules, Mr. Underwood. He is a pragmatist. He does what is necessary, whether it is good or bad or whatever. Whatever will get him power and keep him in power is the key. And that's kind of where Machiavelli is coming from.
That show bummed me out.
Yeah, with good reason. It's depressing. And
Never seen it. Sorry.
Don't not worth
Don't
it.
start. Not worth it.
it's rough.
Okay.
I mean, it's this in practice almost. And
worse.
for that reason, because it is different than many rulers before who had advocated virtue in the ruling class, right? You should be honest and you should
Right.
be brave and you should be all these things. Machiavelli said, maybe, but do the stuff that is actually going to bring you power and help you to rule your country. And for that, he's villainized.
Sure. So in the last episode, he said there are certain circumstances where being the noble, virtuous person is to your benefit, right?
Absolutely.
But even then, it's just for pragmatic reasons.
Sure.
You're faking it.
Yeah.
So today, we talked last time about how to best sort of run a principality if you've just got it, right? How to conduct yourself in war and wartime and even a little bit in peace. Turns out best thing to do in peace is go hunting. Who knew?
Sure. Yep.
And so today
Not
we are
us.
moving into how a ruler should conduct himself as regards his own country, right? That thing that he is ruling in order to best stay in power. And here's where we get to the virtues and vices of the ruler and how those will affect how he rules. So the first thing is I'm going to read a chunk of chapter 15 in this. It's really short. It's maybe a little over a page.
Okay.
I'm not even going to read that whole thing. The chunk I'll read is about a page long. And I'm reading it because it sets up the foundation that the rest of the book is kind of based upon.
Okay.
Right? Here is my logic for how people are supposed to run themselves. The title of this is On the Things for Which Men, and Especially Princes, Are Praised or Blamed. And I'm going to skip the first little bit and jump in middle of the first paragraph. Many have imagined republics and principalities for themselves, which have never been seen or known to exist in reality. For the distance is so great between how we live and how we ought to live, that he who abandons what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. Because a man who wants to make a profession of goodness in everything is bound to come to ruin among so many who are not good. Therefore, it is necessary for a prince, if he wants to preserve himself, to learn how not to be good, and to use this knowledge and not use it as necessity dictates. That paragraph is incredibly important. He says, look, a lot of writers talk about these countries that they imagine as really good places, but we've never actually seen in real life. What we see in real life is that man is full of toots. Like, we're all jerks.
Okay.
None of us are good. And if you want to be good, you will quickly come to ruin because everyone else is evil.
Right.
So you have to figure out how to use evil for your good if you want to stay in power.
Okay. Sounds horrible, right?
That flies almost in the face of everybody else that has written before,
Sure.
and why he is partially villainized, right? Continuing on. Leaving aside, then, the things that have been imagined about the prince and discussing those that are true, I say that all men, when they are spoken of, and especially princes, because they are placed at a greater height, are judged for some of those qualities which bring them either blame or praise. And this is why one is considered liberal, another miserly. I'm going to skip a little parenthetical here. One is considered a giver, another rapacious, one cruel, another merciful, one treacherous, the other loyal, one effeminate and cowardly, the other fierce and courageous, one humane, the other hardy, one lascivious, the other chaste, one straightforward, the other cunning, one hard, the other easy, one serious, the other frivolous, one religious, the other incredulous, and so on. I know that everyone will admit that it would be a most praiseworthy thing for a prince to have, of all the qualities mentioned above, those that are held to be good. But since it's impossible to have all of them, and to practice any of them completely, because the human condition does not permit it, it is necessary for him to be sufficiently prudent so as to know how to avoid the infamy of those vices which would lose him the state, and if he can, to guard himself against those which might not lose it for him, although if he can't, he can indulge them with less concern. And further, he need not worry about incurring the disgrace of those vices without which it would be difficult for him to save the state, for if everything is carefully considered, it will be found that something which seems a virtue would, if practiced, become his ruin, and some other thing which seems a vice would, if practiced, result in his security and well-being. Right? So if you can have the goods, use them if it helps.
Right.
And if you have vices, well, try to practice the ones that don't make you famous for being a jerk.
Okay.
And in some cases, practicing a vice, something that seems a vice, will actually help you to uphold the state. So you got to know right from left here.
Will you go through and say which ones, which are the good, which are the okay vices to have?
Yeah, he kind of jumps in and says, here is how you need to conduct yourself. And that's why this second part is so much different than the first. The first is basically how do you govern and where do you send your troops and who do you ally yourself with. This is how do you conduct yourself.
Okay.
And how do you sort of set up those vices. So did that all make sense?
It does. He just sort of presumes a certain amount of like objectivity or of the subject. Like he assumes that the person has the ability to like take an objective view of themselves and be like, oh, I have the vice of drunkenness. Well, that's not too bad. Whereas most drunk people are like, I'm not drunk. What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. You need to know what vices you have, and then the ones that are kind of okay, well, they're kind of okay.
Yeah,
you can indulge them without. I think drunkenness would be one of those ones of a king where people would kind of be okay with it, so long as you didn't do it during the daytime.
Yeah,
right.
So he presumes or presupposes that the prince has the ability to like look at himself objectively and not lie to himself about his faults and his glories.
He presumes a certain amount of wisdom, and it'll become clear later why he presumes a certain amount of wisdom in the king. Right? Okay, so now it's time for quiz game. You guys ready for quiz game?
Yeah.
Back into quiz bowl?
Yeah.
Born ready.
Okay. Should a leader be miserly or generous?
Ding, 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 ding.
Okay, Graham. what's your answer?
Miserly.
Miserly, we talked about that last time.
Okay, yes. So this is a little bit of review. It is better to be miserly rather than generous because being generous as you should, which is doing it in secret, doesn't really bring you a whole lot of gain.
Right.
So you got to do it publicly, and that means big celebrations, and those are just going to waste your wealth. And generosity is one of those virtues that quicker than any other virtue wastes itself to nothing.
Right.
Because the more you practice it, the less you can practice it.
That's right.
So it's better to be miserly, keep your money, and then you can provide well for your people rather than taking their money once you run out of everything after throwing them a whole bunch of parties.
Yeah, after Thomas lovingly gives me a slice of cake and I enjoy it and think, happy thoughts towards
Yeah.
him.
He
A
can't have
day
any more
passes
cake.
and I want more cake. I'm
That's
just
exactly
like,
right. And I have no cake, right?
Yeah, when I come demanding cake from Thomas, he ain't got no more
have
cake to
nothing
get.
to give.
and
That's
my
right.
goodwill has melted back into my sort of ordinary life.
Yeah, naturally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So miserliness is better. You got to keep it, right?
Keep that cake.
That doesn't mean being rapacious. That doesn't mean stealing money from your people. It means
Okay.
keeping the money that you have, right?
Gotcha.
Not giving it away freely. Okay, do we want to actually award a point for that since we talked about it last time, or is that just a review point?
Point each? Doesn't matter.
Oh, is the first person who dings in? Is this how we're doing it this time?
No, I just dinged in.
Oh, okay.
Should we have the bell? Should it be part of it?
Oh, please no. Last time we just had it where we both gave an answer.
But you always give the opposite answer. No, that's not
Sometimes I went
true.
first.
Okay, we'll give maybe an extra point for whoever says it first if you both
Nice.
say the same answer.
Okay.
Okay, so Graham, you're going to get 2 points and Thomas,
Oh,
you get
yeah.
1.
I accept it.
I'm just worried all of our students are like going to be copy and pasting this episode with us talking about cake. It's going to be like, whatever.
We haven't yet
making
had
memes.
anybody do a soundboard
That's
of our
true.
podcast.
Yeah.
Okay,
Until this episode.
until now. All right, is it better to be feared or loved?
Feared.
Okay, Thomas says feared. Grambles?
Loved.
Loved. Point Thomas.
So,
What?
But
Why?
An extra point for buzzing in first.
Thanks. To be fair, I do think he says it's better to have both. But if you have to choose one or the other, then fear is the one. I don't know if that's actually word for word right.
That is pretty much exactly right.
Cool.
He
Can I shared this with Graham after the last episode when I destroyed him. I took a class in business school where we read The Prince as like the textbook. So hopefully I remember
you did.
something.
Of course,
Yeah.
business school reads this.
Yes, exactly. It was this plus a book on advocacy, I think was the name of the
Did
book.
you read
but-
Cyril the Great from Xenophon? No, of course
No,
not.
of course not.
You read
No,
the
no.
Machiavelli's.
100%. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, he says it's best to have both if you can have both, right? To be both loved and feared.
Yeah.
But if you err on one side, you better err to being feared.
Why?
But not hated, which is part of it. Feared, not hated, and there's a difference. If you err on the side of loved, it'll be great until times of necessity come. And then those bonds that are basically given only on men's words and ties of love, those dissolve pretty quickly, and they'll be ready to offend you because what are you going to do, right? They'll leave you in a lurch,
Right.
saving their own family. They love you, but man, you got to fend for yourself. Whereas if you're feared,
They're not going to cross
they
you.
probably will not cross you
Yeah.
because they know that there's retaliation coming. And so it is better to be feared in that way because people will be less likely to offend you and you have to fear less from them.
Man,
But it's better to have both if you can.
I hate the fickle love of man.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
But people often accidentally conflate the two, that being feared and
Yes.
hated is the same thing. He says you have
That's a great point.
You have to not be hated, right? There's a difference between being a Harkonnen, right? Which is being hated and feared, right? That's a Dune reference.
You're going
for
to get
those who don't
stabbed.
know
You're going to
Dune.
be on your little flying fat machine.
Yeah, you're going to, they'll mess with you and do horrible things to you, and man, they're hated rulers, as opposed to somebody like Stilgar, right?
Is this also a Dune reference?
It's another Dune reference. He rules his people with, he's a solid warrior and he's definitely feared, but he's just. And he's not hated. There's a difference. And so the way you avoid being
But
hated.
fear's a mind killer.
Yeah, that is true.
You got to kill everybody's mind a little bit.
So confused.
So the way you're doing this is by not touching the goods or the women of the men that you defeat and of your own people. So if you start stealing everybody's stuff and taking everybody's ladies,
They're gonna hate you.
They're going to hate
Right.
you. They're going to get pretty cranky. But you can dispense justice swiftly and surely and solidly while still being just, right? And we will talk about kind of I think it comes up later how to do this. Let me see if it does. Hold on 1 second. Should build fortress and go about being well liked. Okay, yes, it will come up later.
So 3-2 for Thomas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
3-2, Thomas.
Didn't you get the first one?
You got 1 point. But
Oh, you got it
You got
wrong.
1 point
Sorry.
because he
Yep,
buzzed in
sorry,
first.
nailed it. Yep.
Okay, I feel like this one should be an easy one. So maybe the buzz-in is going to be the ticket here. Should a prince always keep his word?
Yes.
Nah.
1
Nah.
point, Graham.
You can lie if you need to.
No, you got a
Really?
lot.
Is that true?
Yeah, lie if necessity demands it. I mean, if you can, keep the reputation for keeping your word. But if the conditions that made you want to give your word are gone, you should no longer keep your word. If it's advantageous to you, break it, right? He says, and this is where there's like a kind of a long discussion about how a man should fight. And he says, look, you can fight like a human with words and laws, and you can fight like an animal with cunning and violence.
Yeah.
And so we should fight with cunning and violence. And this is a fun little classical reference. This is why every hero is trained by Chiron, who is half man and half animal, because that's the way that you should fight.
Interesting.
You shouldn't keep your word when other men are going to break their word to you, right? If there's no more reason to keep your word, you should not keep
Then you're
your
Ned
word.
Stark, and then you get your head chopped off at the end of book 1.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Okay, let's see if I have a couple of quotes here. I'm not sure I totally want to read them. Let's see.
Wait.
Yeah.
The book's okay, but not that great.
No, I'm just not sure if it's worth the time to read it. I marked out some quotes, but yeah, it's fine. We don't have to read this bit.
Okay.
It's not quite as fun. Okay. So right now it's tied 3-3. So he
Does it come
says
down?
a man should imitate animals. What 2 animals are those that he should imitate?
The leopard.
Okay.
Do you think so?
Yeah, you can change your spots.
Okay, that's one.
And
Also, can I say the lion?
Okay.
I can think of another one.
Two
There are two,
animals.
right?
Two
Yeah.
animals that you should imitate.
I just hear like Bruce Lee saying like, "Be like water."
That's not.
It's not water is not an animal.
I know. I don't know. Like a
Mother
bird.
Earth, bro.
I was like, that doesn't. Wait, hold on.
Be like a dolphin or something.
And
A dolphin and a leopard.
Yeah.
I'll take a lion and a snake.
Okay. 1 point, Thomas.
For what?
For the lion.
Crying out loud.
It is a lion and a fox. You need to be violent, but
on.
also cunning like
my,
a fox.
My snake one was pretty good then. for the
Leopard
cunning.
Snake is pretty
I'm
good.
just saying.
And I don't know any leopard who can actually change
I know, but
their
that's
spots.
But that's
You're
the-
thinking of a chameleon.
No, that's
Oh, that's the story told about
the
them.
leopard changing
Yeah.
their spots is the old tale. The leopards can change.
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah. No, you're right. The only reason I guessed that is that Lindy Man posted a map of where, anyway, lions apparently are a really common reference for animals. Anyway, there's your fun fact for the day. Nailed it. So
Okay.
am I winning now?
Thomas, you are up by 1.
I'll take it. Great.
Dolphins.
Not dolphins.
not
I'm
so
sorry.
much. Sorry.
They're very intelligent, but
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're
They save
the
fishermen.
equivalent of the fox, I guess.
They're
No?
cunning.
Nope. Stop. No.
But they're so happy.
I'm the only one who gets the point. As
Maybe.
long as we agree on that.
Oh yeah, you're not going to get a point out of this. You
Oh,
can't
thank
argue
you.
for
Good.
it.
Okay, great.
The question was not what should we imitate, but what does he say we should imitate?
Sure.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Dolphin
next
is a great
one-
answer if it's one we should imitate, right?
Oh, absolutely. They seem so happy.
They're so happy.
And they play around with little. Do you seen them like knock pufferfish around in the water?
Yeah.
Like a little
Is that really a
baseball?
thing? I've never
Yeah,
seen
they
that.
like little. They boop them around like little volleyballs. Partially because when they hit it, the pufferfish apparently gives off some toxin that makes dolphins wildly intoxicated.
Okay, great.
So they basically boop around a pufferfish like a volleyball until it gets them crazy high, and then they swim around in the ocean.
I've never heard that before. Okay.
Cool.
I learned something.
So fun things about nature.
Good.
All right. How does one best avoid assassination? I know that's a really broad question, so I'm going to say that there are 2 points. Let's say up to 5 points on this question because it's a pretty broad one.
You build up an elaborate spy network amongst the street urchins.
That's a great answer.
Okay, street urchin spy network. All right.
Like a military unit that is highly trained and deeply feared by the people. So I surround myself with strong men who no one would want to mess
Like
with.
those red stormtroopers.
Yes, I want red stormtroopers with the double lightsabers or whatever they have.
Okay. No points for either of you.
What?
Okay.
What? Elaborate
Stormtrooper?
spy network of street urchins? Come on.
That does sound so charming, though,
It sounds
doesn't
cool,
it?
yeah.
yeah.
Like, come here, pocket. What do you got for me today? And he'll give you something.
He's going to stab you.
And you give him a biscuit. Where'd he go? Thanks, governor. Off he runs. Oh, man, what a little turncoat.
What does he say?
Yeah, what does he say?
He says that the best defense is to be loved by the populace.
For crying out loud. Oh, be loved, huh? Yeah. Thomas
answer
can go
from
get
before.
stabbed for being feared, but I'm not going to be assassinated.
He says, be both if you can.
Right.
But here's the thing. The reason it's good to have the people on your side is that if you... 'cause assassins have all sorts of obstacles
Right.
that they have to overcome.
Yeah.
Right? They must be suspicious of everyone they include because every new person is a possible traitor that will sell them out. Right? If you are loved by the people already, then that exacerbates that problem, right? Every new person they bring in may love you and might turn them in, number one. And number two, once they assassinate you, they're going to have to deal with a populace that loved the previous ruler, you, and now they have to sort of win over. And he gives all sorts of examples where a group assassinated a leader, and then because the people loved them, they got turned on and killed. One example of this that I know you guys probably know is Julius Caesar. Right? They assassinated Caesar, but the people loved him, and because Antony quickly swayed them with a good old speech, they turned and eventually all those guys kicked it.
Yes, but Caesar still died. I guess the point is that the assassin will be dissuaded from it because they don't want to die themselves. I guess is that the...
Yes, that's the point. And he does say that there is
No way.
there is always a risk of individual men who hate you.
Yes.
Right? Like there's a story about a guy that was hated by pretty much everybody. He was an awful person, and he kept this fella in his personal guard who had consistently threatened him, like, I'm gonna kill you.
Right.
And he eventually, I think he killed that guy.
Oh.
And that guy's brother was also part of the army, and then once while they were just standing in council, he walked up and just killed him.
Wow.
And he's like, you can't really prevent that or see it coming.
Right.
The best defense is to have everybody around you love you, and he shouldn't have kept that brother around after the guy threatened his life. Sure. Like, he should have sent him away from his personal guard rather than having to kill him later.
Sure.
So there are measures you can take to keep good people around you that like you.
Yep.
And then if you are liked by the populace, the chances that there's going to be some random errant guy that hates you is less because people are more likely to defend you.
Sure. No, that's fair. That's a good answer.
Yeah. So be liked by the people.
Yeah.
Wait, is my elaborate spy network of street urchins not being liked by the people?
You didn't say why they're a part of the network,
I'm
right?
paying them.
You don't
Give them
really,
the
do you
crackers.
need an elaborate spy network if the people like you?
Giving them crackers and stuff. You know?
In all honesty, this is one where I was like,
You disagree with this?
kinda?
Really? Why?
I mean, I feel like maybe the best thing is to be loved by the people and to be a good example and somebody that everyone else wants to emulate and keep around. But man, a spy network sure sounds useful, doesn't
Super
it?
useful.
Sure.
Super useful. Anyway,
But
whatever.
it also implies that you don't trust your people.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
If anybody finds out about your little street urchin spies,
Right.
well, number one, no one's going to tell the street urchins anymore anything, right?
We talked last time about if
Fish
given the
distribution.
option, like attaining power by being conniving isn't the best way to do it, right? So if your network of street urchins is what got you into power, you don't want that kind of reputation, right?
And you don't want to keep double-minded people around you all the time.
Because they'll betray you eventually, right?
Yeah, so he says, like, maybe you have to use those people to get into power, but
Right.
you're not going to raise them to high station
Yeah.
because they are perpetually dangerous.
Sure.
Right?
So really, we should take a point away from Graham for how bad that idea was. Is that?
Ooh.
No, we
No,
shouldn't.
no,
do that.
Okay, so there's that one. The best way is to be loved. Okay. This is kind of a fun question and might get us into some NRA discussion. Should you arm or disarm your subjects? Take away their arms or arm them?
You should arm them. If your first move going in is to take away their weapons, they'll see it as you taking control, and they will revolt. Think of, in the modern day context, any kind of move to try and regulate around the Second Amendment has immediate blowback to to politicians that say those things. So you should arm them.
Okay. Graham, do you agree?
Come on, Graham.
Arm your
what do you
populace?
think, buddy?
What do I think Machiavelli says?
Yeah.
I think Machiavelli says take away their weapons. Because then they're going to be more dependent on you
Okay.
to like
you have to
protect them
give
and
them-
stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got to do it, in a little way. Like,
So don't be too obvious.
yeah,
about
don't be
it.
too obvious about it. Just be like,
Everybody hand in your swords and I'll
trading
give
your-
them back
yeah,
Thursday.
trade in your sword for a tax break. That kind of stuff.
Because no one will catch on to that.
Yeah, it works.
We'll make them into plows, everybody.
Totally.
Free
Swords
plow.
and- swords and
Or it's like,
plowshares,
we
that's
need to
right.
borrow your swords. We We need to borrow them.
It's
for
really,
the
really
war.
urgent.
It's really urgent that we borrow everybody's sword. We'll give them back.
And they're like, but we're your soldiers. Pay no
It's
attention to
like-
that.
and then,
I'll get
"Oh,
new soldiers.
We got some bad news. We lost them. We lost all your swords. We'll get you new ones.
It's weird.
No, I like
Didn't
that.
If you don't
work
want,
out.
and then instead of a new sword, we'll just give you a tax break.
Is the question
Here's
about
a nice ball. You can
Yeah,
bounce it.
totally.
is it about arming your soldiers or about arming like everyone in your city?
Yes.
Okay, either way.
I mean,
Well,
at
for
this
your
point, we're
soldiers, you-
talking about city-states in Italy. And so your
Everyone
soldiers
is-
would probably be your populace,
Okay.
especially because as he advocates earlier, using mercenaries, bad idea.
No good.
But the thing is, if the soldiers have the arms and they can be training with them and they can have them, I don't know. I really don't know what he's going to say.
But you want like a well-defended populace,
Yeah.
and if you give them a weapon, they get used to it. I'm trying here. Come on.
2 points, Thomas. Yes. You should absolutely arm them so long as it is a new state and you're a new prince or it's hereditary. They will enjoy the rewards and recognition of being armed, right? You're sort of elevating them and
Right.
saying, look, you deserve to be an armed member of this state. And not only that, it shows that you trust them.
Right.
To take away everyone's arms implies, oh boy, I'm going to do some stuff to you guys and you better buckle up for all the stuff I'm going to do to you because now you can't fight back.
Sure.
Right? Which shows that you distrust your populace and you are preparing basically to be horrible to them.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Guys.
Nailed it.
Bummer.
Yep.
What's the score right now? Can we just enjoy this moment?
Okay. What about
You did go to MBA. You do
Business
an
school.
MBA.
What's the score right now? Do you have that?
right now? It is, it's a 6-3?
6-3. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 6-3. Thomas. Rough. What about an acquired state? One that I have recently defeated.
No, yeah, they do not get armed.
2 points, Graham.
They don't get armed.
1 point, Thomas.
I love this game so much.
I feel like you're playing the system, Thomas. I don't know how
You're
you're
the one
doing
who
it.
answered right away. I don't know why you did that. Look, I'm just taking advantage. It's just practical to do things like that.
Because if I answer right, at the top,
you get the extra
I get
point.
the extra
You get the
point.
extra
But I still get 1 point.
I should
gotta-
stop.
Why would I give away
saying
that
the
point,
answer.
right?
gotta
Yeah,
come
exactly.
up. I gotta
That's
come
what
up.
happened once.
Well, yeah, Graham hit it nail on the head. Disarm
Obviously,
them.
yeah,
Giving them
yeah.
weapons is a really bad idea,
Right.
especially if a faction inside the state helped you to take the
right,
state
in the first place.
If you take it and
Sure.
all these guys are double-minded and we're sort of dissatisfied with the government, chances are they're going to be dissatisfied with your government too. And so letting them keep swords and armaments is a real bad idea.
Sure.
So take all that stuff away from them.
Good job, Graham.
Okay, here's a fun one. Yeah, I like this one.
Okay.
How are we doing on time, Thomas?
That's a great question. You're 27 minutes.
Okay, that's about right.
Okay.
Should we build fortresses or not?
Just like when? Like,
Huh?
just like, have I just taken over this new place?
You've
Have
got
I-
a state. Fortresses, yes or no?
Yes, I like fortresses. I need them to keep my state.
No, I say no because it costs a bunch of money and I have to arm them and it moves my people away from the city where I am. And I'd rather keep my power concentrated.
Okay. I'm going to give a point to both of you.
Oh,
The answer is,
kind of.
yeah, it depends.
Great.
Which
If-
is what Thomas said. He's like, well, under what context?
That was my first.
Are you arguing for me to give him another point? What is going on with you?
No.
I care about justice.
Thing. I think the 1 point each is spot on.
I mean, like, if Grandma's going to argue for it, I'll give you another point.
For crying out loud.
You argued for
you
it.
did
You
this.
just said you
Yeah,
care
that's
about
true.
justice.
I do care about justice.
Okay, great.
I'm like Wonder Woman.
Wait, what?
Okay, it depends. If your people love you, you probably shouldn't worry about it.
Okay.
Most of the time, fortresses were great for avoiding death by people. Like, that's why they had them, was so that the royal family could run away from their own populace and sort of hold themselves up in this fortress. Because you're not going to fit your whole populace in this little fortress, right?
Right.
It's for your family once everyone turns on you. So it doesn't really look very good if you're building all these fortresses
Right.
against your own people. And by the way, once your whole family is holed up in a fortress because the people hate you,
You're skunked.
you're kind of
Right.
hosed because there's going to be no shortage of foreigners that will come to their aid.
Right.
And like, what are you going to last them out? Like, you're kind of sunk already. And so the point of a fortress is not really helpful, but it's something.
Right.
Right. If the people hate you, it's something. And if the people love you, they're going to defend your state either way.
Right.
Right. Like, it doesn't matter. Every house that the enemy comes upon is going to house somebody with a sword because you've armed them. And you can call them out to the field of battle. The field of battle isn't full of fortresses anyway, usually.
Right.
So,
It depends.
it depends, right?
Sure.
That's kind of the answer. Personally,
You think build the fortress?
I think build the fortress.
Really?
Because they're easily defensible positions. I don't know why we're even arguing about this, right? If you arm your populace and then make it big enough that the populace can take shelter and then launch attacks from a better, well-fortified position, especially if they're military barracks, I say yes, build them. Don't build one that you and your family can be like, hoo-hoo,
Right.
heck with the people, we're going to stay here and eat, pie.
Right.
I think it should be military barracks, and then basically you're making up embankments that you can defend yourself.
But then wouldn't you just fortify your city? Like build higher walls around all your people, make them all feel safe.
Oh yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah, that's kind of what I was imagining was a city wall.
Yeah.
Let's not abandon this pie fortress idea. Though.
Wait, let's come back to that one.
I mean, why not just make pie for the whole city? Like have a city that is fortified by pies.
But you'd rather have cake though, right? Like, because cake is better
No,
than pie.
if I had an option, I'd have pie. Instead
Really?
of
You would
cake.
pick pie?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think objectively you both are
Easily.
wrong. Oh, okay.
I think the best option here is like a shepherd's pie, right? Where you
Oh, that's like an actual meal.
What?
Yeah, sure.
With like
yeah.
ground beef?
dude,
yeah.
have you?
Some mashed potato?
Are
in
you
there?
not
Come
a
on.
shepherd's pie fan?
I am, but if we're talking dessert,
We're
We're
I'm just
talking
talking
pie.
like pie
Yeah,
and cake in
easy.
general. I
Easy
will
there.
take shepherd's pie over any other option
What?
every time.
pastry or mashed potatoes?
Graham, AJ, before we go any further, I want to thank our Patreon sponsors for making this episode possible. Our Patreon sponsors support us at one of 4 levels. I'm going to go through them right now because I think many people listening, they want to be a part of this as well. They want to become patrons as well. We have a $2 a month tier. Those are Gibelines. At $2 a month, you get access to all of our episodes ad-free. You also get access to previous content that we've done, mostly at conferences. So you get access to many other bonus episodes as well. At $10 a month, you get access to our in-between episodes, which we record after every single episode that we record. You also get access to our monthly AMAs, which I think are really funny and some of our best content. In addition to all the same benefits at the $2 a month tier, you get access to ad-free episodes. Above that, at the $20 a month tier, you at that point are giving input into the podcast. You are helping us come up with future topics, to come up with future merchandise, in addition to all benefits from the tiers below that. And finally, and you heard about this in recent episodes, we have added a Helios' Acolytes of Love tier at $100 a month. At this level, you are a true believer and you are the most faithful of our listeners. At this tier, you get all the benefits from lower tiers. You also get, I can't believe I'm saying these words, that you get a Helios' Acolytes of Love crew neck sweatshirt, you get Helios' Acolytes of Love Crocs, and you get a free copy of all future merchandise as we create it. So incredible benefits at this level. That is only for $100 a month. You can find all of this at patreon.com/classical stuff. Thanks again to our patrons, and thank you all for listening.
What?
Pastry or mashed potatoes? Like a shepherd's pie with pastry or a shepherd's pie with the mashed
you put the
potato
mashed
top?
Like
potatoes-
mashed potatoes as the crust?
Yeah.
Well, then you're losing out on the
Wait,
crust, and the
the
crust is the
pastry.
best
Okay,
bit.
so then you want the pastry.
Pastry,
then.
obviously, yeah.
A pastry shepherd's pie is the best pie.
Sure.
I wouldn't say that.
What pie beats it?
Cherry?
Yeah, cherry pie.
Cherry pie's great.
Cherry pie's
Ah,
the best.
you never know whether it's going to be sweet or tart. It's always a surprise.
Yeah, I know. That's
Yeah,
part of the
it's
fun,
amazing.
right? Yeah, I don't understand.
Gee, my cherry pie.
Thanks, Graham.
Looks so good, makes a grown man cry. Come on. All right.
That's
What is that?
really creepy.
Yeah.
White Snake? Isn't that White Snake? No. Who sang that song? I don't know.
I don't know.
I was like 4.
It's not great. I don't like this.
This is going great.
I still like the idea of fortresses. Seems like a good idea. But I guess practically they're not as good as just having really good walls around your city.
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
Warrant. I don't even know that band.
What is it called?
Warrant.
Warrant?
Their name is Warrant.
Were they a one-hit wonder?
Must have been.
Just sing about cherry pie? Was that their whole thing?
1990.
That's when that song came out? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I thought it was before that.
So, Graham, I'm
was
going to
7.
reveal something that is maybe going to make you self-conscious, but it's one of my favorite qualities about you. It's the way you say 90.
Huh?
You
it
say
again.
90 without any T or D. It's 90.
Yeah.
Like 9-ish.
In
It's
what,
kind of 90.
In what
The
year did that song
1990s.
come out?
90.
You say 90.
I know.
90?
But I
think
say
it's wonderful.
Toronto. I'd say Toronto without the T in there, too.
I know, it's great.
Canadians do it.
I love
Really?
it.
Is that
Toronto,
a thing?
90. 90.
This isn't a calling you out. It's just
Feel
letting
called
you know
out.
that I appreciate it.
I feel
It's-
called out.
It's a little Canadian. It's not wrong.
Like a nuclear family.
I say bag.
Big.
Okay, moving on. Okay. How do you go about, as a prince, becoming well-liked? Now remember,
Pie.
Yeah, pie is a great answer.
generosity is not necessarily
No.
the way to do it.
That's right. Well, like being just.
Okay?
That's my answer. Ding, 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 just. Oh, but like keeping the rules, keeping the law, having laws that work.
Okay.
I think you're onto the right thing. It's you.
Lower taxes.
No, we don't lower taxes. We keep them the same, or at least that's what we did last time. You need to show that, again, a sign of strength. That
Prop
you're,
up the stock market.
there's an answer. QE, no. Like to some sort of show of strength to show the people that you will protect them well. That what again? Are we taking over a new kingdom?
So Thomas's answer is military parades.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
let the record show.
Yes. Thanks. I appreciate that. But yeah, something to show that life will be good under you, i.e., you can protect them. They're not going to lose their land, their property, their whatever. So
Okay.
I'll take full credit. It's okay. Oh, is Graham the correct
I feel like
answer?
it's like 1 point each.
What's the answer?
But don't I get a point
The
for
answer is
answering
great
first?
deeds, but
you
but
want
he
it right.
kind of makes it real vague about how you go about doing great deeds. For example,
So if I said just do friggin' cool stuff, you would have given me 2 points?
yes, because that's literally the answer.
What he says? Okay, great.
I will read you the first sentence of this chapter. Nothing makes a prince so esteemed as when he personally accomplishes things rare and exemplary.
That's really the answer. Okay,
That's
great,
I'm not
great,
kidding.
great.
Like great deeds, just killing it.
I killed the white stag.
Well, yeah, yes, that. Okay, so a little extra thing. It also helps a prince.
So like Kim Jong-il, like propaganda videos of him like
Yep.
riding a unicorn.
Yep.
Yeah. Or what's his name? Putin riding that horse shirtless. Rare and
I
exemplary.
think it worked. Yeah.
I mean, he's been a meme all over the place. Okay. It also helps a prince a great deal to give rare examples of his abilities in domestic government, like those which are recounted of Messer Barnobo of Milan. When it happens that someone does something extraordinary, whether for good or ill in civil life, the prince should choose a method of rewarding or punishing him that will be much talked about. And above all, a prince must strive in his every action to give the impression of himself as a great man and one of exceptional intelligence. So be smart. And if you're going to dispense justice, which is why I gave you guys kind of like the military parade is kind of
a
a
part of it.
exemplary thing, right?
Right.
And then the dispensing justice well is true. But if you're going to dispense justice, do it in a way that's going to be public and well talked about, right? Like if you're going to execute somebody, do that stuff in public
Yeah,
and do
right.
it in some crazy way.
It's out of a cannon or something.
Yeah, and if you're going to reward somebody, do it publicly and in some crazy elaborate way where people are going to talk about it for a long time. They'll talk
Right.
about how just you are or how great you are.
Should you give him the extra point since he answered first?
It wasn't a very good answer.
Oh,
Though.
okay, good. No, okay.
Answering first with a moderately correct I mean, sure.
Both of us were moderately correct, though.
Yeah, I'll give Graham an extra point.
Thanks.
Okay.
Feels good, man.
Yeah. Justice feels good.
Feels good.
Good.
You did it in a public way. We all love you. No one's
Oh,
gonna,
thank you. That's what I was
no
trying
one's
to
gonna
do.
stab you now.
I will-
Yay!
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Okay. And one other way that you can sort of give yourself these great deeds is by how you act when two people, not you, are kind of warring with each other. And he talked about it as if it's other states, but it could also be people inside your own government. How do you act when two people, maybe your neighboring city states, are at war? Do you stay neutral? Do you declare a position? What do you do?
You send aid to both of the
Oh,
widows
really?
and orphans.
Send aid to both?
Neutral. Why would I want to take sides? Yes, yeah, stay neutral. Why would you want to take sides like day 2 that you've been in control? It's just you're committing more resources.
Both wrong. You need to take a side.
Oh,
Always take sides.
Really?
But you need to avoid allying yourself to anybody more powerful than you because you'll remain in his power.
Wait, so like side with the Sucky house?
Side with Sucky House if you can. Well,
Really?
Okay.
if neither of them are more powerful than you, then you can side with whichever you please.
Yeah.
But you always need to declare.
So tip them scales.
Yeah, if you remain neutral, what happens is they both kind of despise you
Oh.
because you didn't come to their aid.
That's fair.
And someone in this little battle is going to get stronger. And then he's not going to like you very much because you didn't really come to his aid. And now you've got a powerful enemy to worry about. Whereas if you choose sides and your side wins, well, that guy's not really going to come and defeat you next because you aided him in his time of need, right? No one's that crass.
Right.
And if it's a guy that, if you side with the guy who loses, well, he's going to take you under his wing if he can, and you never know when his fortune might change. It's
true.
Right? It is better than remaining neutral. And here I have an example.
Well, you know what, AJ? I just want to let you know that I got you.
Thanks, buddy.
If anything
Wait,
happens,
is there a feud between the two of us right now?
If anything happens-
Wait, hold on.
I just want you to know that I I'm on yours. I got you.
I feel like I should give a point to Graham.
Am I about to get
Yeah.
stabbed?
So here's an example, and it talks about how these things kind of played out. Antiochus went to Greece, being sent there by the Aetolians to drive out the Romans. He dispatched orators to the Achaeans, who were friends of the Romans, to encourage them to remain neutral, while on the other side, the Romans were urging them to take up arms. The matter came to be deliberated in the council of the Achaeans, where the legate of Antiochus urged them to remain neutral. So there are these two guys, the Antiochus guy and the Roman guy, which are both trying to get the Achaeans on their side, right? Antiochus wants them to remain neutral so he can fight the Romans, and the Romans are like, hey man, get in on this.
Right.
And to which the Roman legate replied, as to what these men are saying about how you should not get involved in the war, nothing is farther from your interests. Without thanks, without dignity, you will be the prize of the victor.
Wow.
If you don't get involved, whoever wins is going to come and take over you. If you do get involved, you are no longer the prize. And that is what he advocates here. This is one of the ways to sort of establish great deeds for yourself is, man, you have to declare a side.
What if I'm on the wrong side? Right? Like, don't I get wiped out anyway? Like, aren't I increasing my risk by taking a side?
Yeah, but I mean, the fight isn't necessarily totally with you, and your risk is there.
Okay.
And that's what the thing is. If you think, I'm going to hedge my bets and kind of stay out of this and hope that it turns my way,
Right.
you are basically letting someone else get powerful enough to defeat you without having lent them any help.
That's fair. Sure.
And chances are, if you join up with somebody, they're going to be a lot stronger,
Right. Sure.
And you're the chances of them winning are far higher with you in their corner
That's
rather
fair.
than you sort of sitting things out.
Sure. That makes sense.
So staying out of the war, bad idea. Got to take sides, right? You got to do something.
Sure.
Which is kind of, if I was a personal ruler, that would be absolutely not what I would do.
Exactly. Same here. Right.
I tend towards neutrality every time,
Yeah.
right? I want someone to be measured and deliberate and not, compulsive
Right.
and doing stuff up by the cuff and jumping into wars that aren't their own.
Right.
But apparently that's the best way. And that, that kind of rings true.
Sure.
To hitch your wagon to the winning No, he was saying, and this one, like, allying with Rome makes sense. But he was saying to ally with the weaker one so that the weaker one has, like,
Well,
more
if you can
fighting
win,
chance, right?
if you can win by
If you can win by allying with the
allying
weaker
with them,
one.
yeah.
That's right.
'Cause I don't think he would say to ally with the clear loser in a situation. I think. I don't know.
All right. So what about if they're weak neighbors?
That's
if
what-
no matter who wins,
Then you ally with the other one. So
Wait, they're both weaker than you?
they're both weaker than you. If one of them wins, they still won't be big enough to take over. Do you remain neutral or do you take sides?
still take a side.
Hey,
So-
you remain neutral on that one.
But you want to make
Let them
friends.
fight it out, and then you can just come in and mop it up.
2 points, Thomas. Still take a side.
Sweet.
I mean, what's it going to
love this
hurt you,
game. I love
right?
this game
Like
so much.
you'll get all the benefit from having helped somebody, and they can't come take over you. So it's like win-win-win. You can't lose in that situation. Just pick somebody and help them out.
Maglandia is truly conquering Donsylvania, Vampire Landia, whatever it's called.
Pennsylvania's having a rough time here.
Yeah, you're not killing it. I think so far Thomas has been the better ruler.
This is
and
why I
Graham,
suck
you're in
at
trouble.
Crusader Kings too.
This is why
You're always like,
yeah.
yes, remain neutral. Okay, and now we get into how to conduct yourself at court.
Oh,
How do you
I got
recognize?
Graham's going to win this
I
one.
got
Oh,
this.
Oh yeah, Graham. I think you've got this one nailed. And I'll say this one is worth 3. How do you recognize a bad minister? Someone who's a secretary that you should get rid of.
how do you recognize? Like,
How do
how
you
do you
recognize
figure
it?
out that he's bad?
How do you figure out that he's somebody that has to go?
He's friendly with opposing kingdoms. So, well, actually, maybe I'm not understanding. So when you say at court, you mean I sit on my fancy throne? Like, how do I tell there that he is a bad minister?
I mean, it doesn't have to be like
He's-
in the room, but when you're conducting your day-to-day affairs, how do you recognize that somebody who is supposed to be a secretary for you
Oh,
is
He's overly
someone that has to go?
he's overly flattery towards me. He flatters me, and he always like agrees with me.
that's
okay.
my answer. Like they're never like it's whether they're there or not. Like, do they do their work, or are they only there because they're a famous family or something like that? So, are they present in court? Do they do the work of minister?
Okay, I'm going to give 1 point to Thomas. I'm sorry, Graham. I feel like you'll like the next question. I don't know.
Wait, why would you say that? Hold on, wait. hold on.
The actual answer is if they consider themselves to be more intelligent than you, that's a problem.
Sure.
And if they ever pursue their own interests above yours.
Sure.
If they take half a second and they are out for themselves, they have to go.
Sure.
Because that kind of person will drop you as fast as they can if
immediately.
it ever is a situation where they can.
Sure.
And to make sure that you hold your ministers close and they never turn into that sort of person is you've got to reward them, right? Make your affairs their affairs. Engraft them to your soul as much as you can.
Sure.
Reward them, honor them. As they serve you, you need to elevate them, right? So when they seek your interests, they are seeking their own, right? They don't have a chance to seek their own interests. But if they're ever like, you're a fool, I'm smarter than you are, they're gone. You got to get rid of that person because they have a disdain for you. And when push comes to shove, they're going to drop you because they don't respect you.
That's a pretty good answer, right? Like that one seems spot on.
That one like really does seem spot on to me.
Yeah.
The moment a minister thinks himself smarter than you and pursues his own interests, like he's got to go. You can't keep that guy around.
But isn't it a good thing to have someone who thinks he's smarter than you and you know this? Like you've read his hand. Like you know what he thinks about you. And so if you keep him around, like you've got him cornered. Like you've got him figured out.
But I would rather have a loyal person figured out than a disloyal person figured out.
Right.
And then have them close to me. Right? I'd rather have the number of some guy who really loves me and really wants to serve his state as a close minister rather than someone who will betray me when the moment comes.
No, I know. I'm just thinking like it's tremendously valuable to have something known. So like if you know that this guy thinks he's smarter than you and you get rid of him, you're now bringing in somebody that you've got to figure out. And now you're kind of in a more vulnerable situation than you were before of somebody that you know.
Right. So the devil you know rather than the devil you don't. I think that's fair. But I mean, that's a pretty good answer. But if you have the option between the two and you know both, I would rather know both. Although from talking to people that understand statecraft, someone's vices are the way that you get at them. And if their vice is pride, like knowing how to bend that to your own will is incredibly valuable. But that's the thing. I don't mind having that guy at court. I do mind having that guy as one of my close ministers.
Sure. That's
like,
a good point.
I don't mind having that guy around. I don't want him running my close affairs.
Sure.
I'm trying to think about your vices and how I can get to you guys.
Well, yours is cake, obviously.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah.
And mine is shepherd's pie.
And I have no vices, so
Yeah,
Thomas is perfect.
Thomas is pretty smart.
Yeah.
okay. Smarter than the two of you. No, it's not true. Definitely not true.
Okay. Which leads, the fun thing is Graham's answer leads us directly into the next question. How do you avoid flattery at court? Right? Flattery is one of those things that's going to get you into trouble every time.
Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you conduct your court such that flattery is not the thing that you get?
You reward dissenting opinion
Yeah.
at some level.
Okay.
This is too specific, but like hire a jester. Like hire someone who's there to
get fooled.
criticize you. Yeah.
Okay.
And
A little
laugh about
slave
it.
boy to whisper in your ear,
Yeah.
like you will
Memento
die.
mori, yeah. And don't kill that person. Don't kill that jester. Don't right. That's along the same lines of what you're saying of reward dissenters. But
Or every time that, like, as soon as someone flatters, like, I don't know, chop a finger off or something.
Oh, man. Graham, good answers.
Thank you.
I'm going to award 3 points for that one because that was a hard question. So good job, Graham. Part of it is to reward dissenting
I love
opinions.
flattery.
He says there's a
you
weird
love flattery. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
there's a weird balance. You can't have everyone in court doing that.
Yeah.
I cannot surround myself with people who tell me their opinions all
Or
the time.
just contrarian for the sake of being contrarian.
Exactly,
You're like,
because I'm going to look weak. And
we're going to have
especially
dinner.
if-
No, it's not time to eat.
And especially if I decide on a course of action and then everybody gives their opinions and I kind of waver,
Yeah.
that makes me look effeminate and then I'm doomed. Like I'm gonna, well, at least sorry. I use that term because
that the term he
Machiavelli
uses?
uses it.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Effeminacy in a king, according to Machiavelli, is to be deplored, right? You don't want it. And so if you waver once you've decided on something because you're getting all these contrary opinions, that's really bad.
Okay.
And you can't have your whole court disrespecting you to your face and bringing up their opinions all the time.
Sure.
So what you do is you make a division. There are a close group of advisors that you keep nearby, and from them you expect absolute honesty. And therefore you reward when they tell you what they think, and you get angry if they hedge their bets and they flatter you. Right? And this way you train them up to always give their opinions.
Sure.
However, they don't give them freely.
Yep.
You must ask. You have to ask for their opinions. It's not you get to give your opinion willy-nilly all the time, right? I remain in control. But after establishing that, I ask their opinions constantly.
Sure.
Right? So Establish that it has to be only when you ask, but ask all the time. And then from everybody else in court, they can flatter you all they want.
Right.
Right.
But you expect it from them.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
That's right.
Their opinions don't really matter. You know it's going to be flattery.
Right.
You are in charge. You maintain dignity. And once you decide on the course of action,
Pucker up.
you go.
Right. Sure.
Right.
Yep.
The great thing is a lot of this, and this is where the wisdom of the king matters, is that you need to be wise enough to know which advisors are telling you the good idea
Right.
and which ones are telling you the bad idea.
Yes.
And if you are a dumb king, what's going to happen is you're going to end up having somebody that kind of runs all your affairs because they're smarter than you are,
And
but
then
you're going to be short-lived
Right.
because they're going to take your state from you
Right.
because they're smarter than you are. And so he kind
I'd be
of
a terrible
says
king.
a smart king is kind of just going to happen
Right.
because if you're an unsmart king,
You're
not
die.
going to last very long.
Right, sure.
And so he sort of depends on this as almost a premise, right?
Right.
The king is going to have some amount of wisdom, otherwise he's toast.
Sure.
And so you got to have advisors around you, but you have to be smart enough to know which opinions are the good ones because you're going to get a lot of different opinions.
Sure.
Some of them good, some of them bad, and you need to know which ones to run with. And once you run, don't change course.
Sure.
You have to follow through. And I think that's smart.
Sure.
Right? That's
makes
a
a lot
pretty
of
good way
sense.
to do it.
Yeah. Have some sort of inner circle you trust deeply. And I like that idea of, again, you expect flattery from everyone else because you're king, right?
Right.
Like,
And
right.
that's fine.
Right.
Right. But you need somebody to be honest with you. And so you have to reward it when it's honest
Right.
and get angry when they lie.
Sure. Yeah. I guess it's probably outside the scope of this. Does he say how someone gets into that inner circle?
I don't know.
Because that seems more akin to what he did, right? He went from essentially very little notoriety to advisor to the prince.
Yeah, he really did.
So, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, practical things. Okay, this next chapter doesn't really have a question
Oh,
because I'm not sure how to make it into a question.
Okay.
I mean, the chapter is, okay, how does fortune play into all this? Chance. A lot of people say that chance rules everything, so you might as well just sort of hang out because chance is going to be the one that determines all of our affairs anyway. He disagrees. He says it's about half and half.
I was going to say.
Chance is a part of things, sure.
Sure.
You can't control everything. But he envisions it kind of like a river, right? There's this big river, and you could either just sort of let yourself be swept up by it, or you could build some dikes and some embankments and kind of try to direct the flow of the river when you can and prevent floods, right? So see down the range. See, that's about 50-50, really.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that certain types of men will succeed at certain times. If
Sure.
chance is feeling whimsical and everything is kind of up in the air, then the compulsive man, the man who just sort of throws caution to the wind and goes for it, is sometimes going to succeed.
Right.
Right? When chance wouldn't have rewarded the cautious man.
Right.
But there are times when that guy's going to get himself into trouble
like
because
crypto.
Right, exactly.
yes, like crypto, and
Sure.
times where a cautious man is going to win, right? Like the .com bubble.
Right.
And so there are times when caution will win, and there are times when throwing caution to the wind will win. But men are bad at changing between
Yes.
those two because
Yes.
they will have found success using one of those strategies and will have a hard time flipping. And so if you can flip, that's great.
Right.
Chances are you can't.
Sure.
And so really it's just 50-50 whether or not your time is one of those times that kind of aligns with your disposition, whether cautious or
Sure.
foolhardy.
Is this when we announce the Helios Acolytes of Love blockchain? the Helios token.
Get in now.
Yeah.
It's at the beginning.
Guys, let's get our own crypto.
Helios-
Guys,
yeah.
this is a great idea.
Helios is acolyte.
Oh, I like it.
Acolytes de love.
To love.
I like it.
Okay, and I'm going to read you this paragraph with a disclaimer. It is wildly sexist.
Oh.
And I'm reading this just because we're going to throw it out there, and this is one of those elements of the old books. And this is, I think, of all the paragraphs in here that could get Machiavelli canceled, this is the one that would get him canceled.
Okay.
Again, to say, I am not sexist. This is a horrible paragraph.
Okay.
But I thought you guys might find it interesting just as sort of an artifact of an earlier time.
Okay.
I conclude, therefore, that since fortune changes and men remain set in their ways, they will prosper as long as the two are in accord with one another, but they will not prosper when the two are not in accord. I certainly think this, that it is better to be impetuous than cautious, for fortune is a woman, and it is necessary, if you wish to keep her down, to beat her and knock her about, and one sees that she lets herself be conquered by men of this sort more than those who proceed coldly, and therefore, like a woman, she is always the friend of the young, and because they are less cautious, fiercer, and command her with more audacity. Yeah, that's a
Nope.
neck hole tugger.
Nope,
It's It's not a great paragraph.
It's not.
And the weird thing is, it really sticks out in this book.
Oh, really?
This kind of thing is not, almost every other section is just how to govern well, how to do it. You don't run against any real racism, any real sexism, except this paragraph. And this paragraph, man, it sure sticks out like a sore thumb. It's rough.
Sure. I guess you talked about effeminacy earlier also. So that's something he'll say throughout.
Yeah, but I could say that's kind of like, he means indecisiveness,
Sure.
right? But I guess that's a sexist term, sure, going through this book.
Yeah.
But man, this is as blatant as it gets,
Sure.
which is real rough.
Is it related to anything before or after? Or is it just kind of a random?
I mean, like, I highlighted this paragraph because it just comes
Like
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually the end of the chapter. Yeah, that's the end of that
really?
chapter.
Okay.
The final one is, the last chapter is basically written to this new prince saying, hey man, let's seize Italy. Like, you have the
Wow.
chance. The time is now.
Sure.
Let's go for it.
do
Like,
it.
you can do it. And here's the way, because the infantry of this army is like,
so it's like really specific to.
yeah, he says, here's
okay.
how you can do it. This infantry is really susceptible to cavalry. This one is susceptible to anyone as fierce as them. So really, there's a way to take back Italy if you just do it, and here's how you do it. And then it ends with a really cool little last quote.
This is
that-
written to the Medici that he dedicates the book to.
Yes.
Who never actually read the book.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, great.
Yeah, he's basically exhorting them to take control, which is funny because he just wrote chapters about flattery.
That's a good point.
He's like basically saying, you are the savior we have been waiting for, so please take over, which is kind of silly. And then he ends with a cool quote from Petrarch, and it is, valor against furor will take up arms, and the combat will be short, for ancient valor in Italian hearts is not yet dead. Which is that's a really
line.
cool quote.
Sure, yeah.
A bummer coming after the last paragraph of the last chapter of the previous
Sure,
chapter.
yes.
But that's kind of a cool thing to end on. It's this weird, you are our new savior, please take Italy. I believe in Italy, woo, at the very end. And you're the guy.
Is that like the last line of the whole book?
Yeah, that's it. That is
really? Wow.
the
Okay.
last line.
Funny.
Which is kind of neat.
It is, yeah.
But
So I guess what's your takeaway on this thing after going through all of it?
my takeaway is that it assumes the evil of men.
Uh-huh.
And that men are going to remain evil, and how to rule with practicality. And it makes me think, yes, this may be how to keep rule. And man, I don't ever want to be in that position. People I know that have been in statecraft talk about that. You have some things you just have to do for your job that are sort of a little unethical. I really don't like that idea, and I understand why people like the Athenian king Solon, who just wanted to farm
Right.
and be virtuous, was like, I will not be king because I don't want to be.
Right.
That's something I don't really want to do.
Right.
And I also don't envy the people who are in power in our own country. I know that they are put in positions all the time when they have to make a choice that seems morally reprehensible, right? Rock in a hard place. There's no winning. And I don't want to be the one forced to make those decisions. I would rather live a peaceful life
That's right.
outside of power. Power is not worth that trade-off to me.
Teach your English class, grow some vegetables.
Exactly. I can rule my English class justly.
Sure.
I cannot rule a nation. I cannot rule a nation justly. I don't know if I'm
Gosh.
good enough.
Right.
Is that true? It's like it is impossible to like virtuously rule. I don't. Seems like a big thing.
I don't know if it's possible to virtuously rule for a long time.
Okay.
I think you can do it, but maybe for a short period, because I think what happens is people might see it as weakness. And then because you will not go back on your word, they will twist that and use it against you.
Sure.
But then, no, you get these stories of periods of virtuous rule. Well, no, I was going to say Edward III, he had like a bunch of buddies. They were his best friends. They were his closest advisors. None of them ever betrayed them. But he also did he was the king that did the burgers of Calais.
Right.
So, I mean,
Yep.
he was cruel, but he was,
And you never know what happens behind closed doors. I don't know. It presents a pretty bleak picture of ruling.
Sure.
And I think there are better pictures if you read something like Cicero, but Cicero never ran the state.
Right.
Right?
yeah.
And neither did some of the most honest people we think of way back then. And if we think of people like Hergus, who started Sparta.
Right.
Well, maybe it's,
Well, he kind of took away everybody's money and gave them iron money in return.
but maybe it's a sense of scale, right? Like, the bigger the scale of the thing you're ruling, the less, like, it's easier to conceive of ruling a subdivision like an HOA
With justice.
than it is like
The United States.
the state of Texas
Oh, sure.
or
Right.
the United States of America.
Especially when territory's on the line.
Yeah.
I think now, because territory doesn't change hands, at least with the big world powers as
Yeah.
quickly, I just feel like the face of war has changed once you introduce nuclear weapons and
robots,
social media.
drones.
Right.
Sure.
Drones, social media, all those things mean that I don't think you can have these big shifts in territory as much. Although there is like stuff like Crimea and...
Are you saying it's a good thing when land changes hands?
No, I'm just saying that it's what I don't think Machiavelli could have conceived of our current world, right? Hunting doesn't help anymore.
Sure.
Right? The war looks different.
Right.
And even if I ally myself with a weaker power, there's just so much more to consider, I think, now.
Sure. It's interesting. Again, yeah, something for us to keep talking about in the in-between episode for sure. But I don't know. Again, like it seems bleak to say that there's a certain level of influence where you can't wield that rightly. I don't know.
It's super depressing.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why he was villainized, is because this put into practice makes a ruler a villain. And I don't think people could deal with that. And so he is consistently villainized after this book comes out.
Yep.
But it is still sort of a touch point in political theory,
Right.
which is crazy to me.
Or like the creation of political theory.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I know you said last time that he separates the church from his book. I don't think that's because he thinks the church is like necessarily a more virtuous institution. Correct?
He actually says it's easier to rule if you run the church because religion is one of those things that
listen, right?
Yeah, people listen. He also says that is one of the ways that you maintain a love of a ruler is if you have to appear to be religious, even if you're not.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
I don't know if that's true anymore. Our rulers certainly claim religiosity.
Sure do.
Yeah, I think it still matters. Because I don't think, there's research into this of like if someone were an avowed atheist, would you still vote for them? And I want to say that's one of the categories that the most people would not vote for. I think that's Pew Research that did that. So
Dang.
I'd have to look it up. But, Hey,
Anyway,
It says
won?
that in 2 Corinthians, right? So.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, sure does.
Let's tally them up.
Yeah, let's get
1,
the
2, 3,
points.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 for Graham.
Oh, come on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Keep those. No, come on. Keep going.
14
That's
for
what's up.
Thomas.
Let's go.
Thomas wins.
2-0, right?
So AJ, who are you going to align yourself with?
The winner.
Oh, Graham, obviously.
Wait, hold on. No, wait. The underdog? Wait,
no, you're powerful enough to take over. I don't want to.
I'm okay with that. Good. Okay, as long as I can conquer both
Going
of
for
you.
you.
Then. Good deal.
Cool. Well, this has been Classical Stuff You Should Know with AJ, Thomas, and Graham. You can find us, you can email us at theguys@classicalstuff.net. Our website's at classicalstuff.net. You can patronize us on Patreon. You can tweet at us at Classical Stuff, CLSSCAL Stuff, and I will like and retweet what you say. Maybe not retweet. I'll like it.
If you're ever having a Twitter beef, we'll take sides.
We'll take sides. We will go. We'll take the weaker side.
No, wait.
And we sometimes retweet things or like do articles and stuff.
Yep.
We don't write them. Gosh.
I was going to say.
No, we anyway. And yeah, thanks so much for listening. And we continue these conversations in an after episode for our Patreon subscribers. So if you're like, oh man, I want to learn more about what they're going to talk about, you gotta join the city state.
There it is.
Yep.
All right, but this is us signing off.
Bye.
Bye.